Good morning and welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church online. I'm Joyce Thompson, your worship associate today. And whether you are a longtime member or you just found us this morning, we're very glad you're here. Now, most of us have heard the expression at some time, no good deed goes unpunished. And it's attributed to different people, Oscar Wilde, Clare Boothe Luce, Dante. Regardless of who came up with it, Job's life in the Bible epitomizes that saying. Because according to the Bible, Job lived an exemplary life. He worshiped God fervently, he did everything right, and he enjoyed a lot of prosperity. He had everything he needed. He had 10 wonderful, successful sons. Everything was going great. And then, boom, in one fell swoop, he lost everything. And of course, he tried to find meaning in that. He tried to figure out why, what he had done wrong. And that, I think, is what we do as human beings, especially with suffering. We try to find meaning in it. In Job's case, spoiler alert, he hadn't done anything wrong. He suffered because he had done everything right, and God decided to test him. But anyway, that's Job. How do we, as UUs, make sense of our suffering as well as the suffering of others in the world, which so often seems unjust? Pastor Kris will address this in today's service, which is titled, Meanwhile, Life Goes On, looking at part of the book of Job through a UU lens. She asks what it can teach us modern UUs about enduring our own outrages and heartbreak. Let's join Pastor Kris for a trip back in time and some very modern ideas.
We have always come together across the plains and skies and seas of the world. Geographically, yes, from this neighborhood to that, from these cities and counties and countries, here, and here, to here. We gather across time, back through the lifetimes of our elders and through their memories to the generations before. Forward to a future unknowable, but subject to hope through the vision of our children's children unto the 7th generation to come. We gather together, leaving the expansive, encompassing worlds within ourselves, the splendid and terrible isolation of each human mind, within which we cross the deep and starry vastnesses of space in the blink of an eye, the moment that we snap back to the present from wherever and whenever the daydream or nightmare of imagination has taken us. We gather in person when we can. We gather in pixels when we can. We gather in spirit as we can. From your far-flung origins, welcome to this Sunday, this congregation, this service, and this moment. We have always come together across the plains and seas and skies of the world, just as we do right now.
In betwixt and in between, we move in liminal spaces that show shades of what can become, what can be. We light this chalice as a symbol of courage to move into that time of this and that, and of not this and not that. With patience and faith and love and hope, that this time will pass, like the sun that moves in between rising and setting, reminding us that beauty resounds in betwixt and in between. This church, like all Unitarian Universalist churches, is founded on a shared vision rather than a required creed. We believe that every being on earth has inherent worth and dignity and deserves to be treated with kindness. We reaffirm these values every week by reciting our covenant aloud. So please unmute yourselves and join me in saying, love is the spirit of this church and service is its law. This is our great covenant. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another.
Give up the fight for some other moment, some other life than here and now.
I'm just gonna breathe.
Give up the longing for some other world, the wishing for other choices to make.
Other songs to sing, other bodies, other ages,
Other countries, other stakes.
Till I touch the sorrow neath the rage. I'm just gonna breathe.
Purge the past. Forgive the future. For each comes too soon.
surrender only to this life, this one, this moment here and now.
Surrender only to this day, this hour, this breath.
Not because it does not constantly break your heart, but because it too beckons with beauty,
startles with delight. If only we can keep waking up to this gift. This is the gift we have been given.
These body clothes.
This heartbreak, it's ours. This pulse, it's ours.
This breath. This light. These friends.
This hope. All we can do is remember ourselves here.
I'm just gonna breathe.
All a part of it all. Still growing together.
I'm just gonna breathe. Until I'm glad to breathe here for a while. We'll give up the thought for some other love. There's hope in the way that you are living. We'll give up the thought for some other love. It's changing, no longer resisting. Come on and breathe, breathe, breathe. Come on and breathe, breathe, breathe. It's gonna breathe, breathe, breathe. Come on and breathe, breathe, breathe. Give up the fight, breathe, breathe. For some other life, breathe, breathe. give up the fight, breathe, breathe. The summer, the life, breathe, breathe. I'm just gonna breathe.
The character of Job, whose name literally means the one who is hated or despised, has called upon God to answer as to why his life has been so stricken. He has lost everything: family, friends, property, security, stability, and even his health. And so he has challenged God and put God to the trial. And here we read, "Then the Holy One answered Job out of the whirlwind. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up your loins like a warrior. I will question you, and you shall declare to me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding, who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together and all the heavenly hosts shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed bounds for it, and set bars and doors, and said, thus far shall you come and no further, and here shall your proud waves be stopped. Have you commanded the mornings since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place? Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all this. Where is the way to the dwelling of light? Where is the place of darkness, that you may take it to its territory, and that you may discern the paths to its home? Surely you know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed, and where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? Who has cut a channel for the torrents of rain, and a way for the thunderbolt, to bring rain on a land where no one lives, on the desert which is empty of human life, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to make the ground put forth grass? Has the rain a father, or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb did the ice come forth, and who has given birth to the frost of heaven? The waters become hard like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades, or loose the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth the Mazzaroth in their season, or can you guide the bear with its children? Do you know the ordinance of the heaven? Can you establish their rule on earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds so that a flood of water may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings so that they may go and say to you, here we are? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, or given understanding to the mind? Who has the wisdom, Job, to number the clouds? Who?
Who cast a spell on my world? Who opened the doors, stirred the crowd of possibilities, put gold dust in my dreams, causing my life to turn? O fate, O love, O spirit, O God, is it true that all good things must end? Or have you set me on a path of meaning, not luck, of clarity, not magic? And this grace that brought me to the mountaintop is also assigned to carry me through dark forests of loss, the ones that await us all, that disturb our peaceful sleep. the same grace that guides the seasons, cracking the ice, pushing up saplings, scattering the earth with their first dramatic leaves.
The book of Job, chapter 30, 24 through 28. You may have heard this before. Surely one does not turn against the ruined when in disaster they cry for help. Did I not weep for those whose day was hard? Was my soul not grieved for the poor? But when I looked for good, evil came, and when I waited for light, darkness came. My inward parts are in turmoil and are never still. Days of affliction come to meet me. I go about in sunless gloom. I stand up in the assembly and cry for help. Then the Holy One answered Job out of the whirlwind. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up your loins like a warrior. I will question you, and you shall declare to me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? Or on what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together and all the heavenly hosts shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst from out of my womb? When I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed bounds for it, and set bars and doors, and said, thus far shall you come, and no further, and here shall your proud waves be stopped. Who was it, Job? Was it you? Was it you who contained the raging waters? No, it wasn't. It was me, God says. God's answer isn't so much an answer as it is an anvil dropped onto the pathetically drooping Eeyore who is Job once God and God as opponent, God and Satan, are done with him. Like many good but ruthless teachers in our lives, God answers Job's questions with yet more questions. One of my most beloved seminary professors often said in her very soft voice, of course there are bad questions. It's our job to ask good questions. And I'll add, my experience is if they're really good questions, we may not get an answer in this lifetime. Job's plea, his demand of God, that God appear in court and give a reckoning of God's self for all of this injustice, well, God's plea is made up of questions. Did I not weep for those whose day was hard? Job asks. And the previous chapters are an exhaustive list of the many ways in which Job lived as a righteous human in thought, word, and deed. I delivered the poor who cried and the orphan who had no helper. The blessing of the wretched came upon me, and I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like a robe and a turban. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy, and I championed the cause of the stranger. The reader is to understand Job as a reliable narrator. Not only does Job say that Job is righteous, God says so in the opening conversation between God as creator and God as destroyer. Job's friends, who are, I gotta say, a big bag of duds, keep insisting that Job deserves his fate. But Job knows, he knows that his current situation, desolate, destitute, despairing, is not his fault. At this point, I think it's vital to remind us all that the book of Job is entirely and wholly an allegory, a story of characters acting out a parable. Job means the despised. Job's so-called friends each represent one way that we try to make meaning from ill fortune. Eliphaz means refined gold, a reference to his wealth and smug security. He insists that Job has sinned, even if he doesn't know how, and says Job's refusal to admit to sin undermines religion. Bildad, the next in Job's trio of, if these are your friends, I'd hate to meet your enemies, well, Bildad means confusing, or also confused. Bildad says Job has to repent anyway, even if he is sure he's righteous. Zophar, the last of the terrible friends, means a climber, or one who leaves early for the advantage it will give him. Zophar tells Job he deserves punishment because it's the only just retribution for his wickedness. Just as Job is a symbol of the righteous man struck down in his prime, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, and later Elihu, another visitor whose name means, "My God is the Holy One," these are amalgamations of the ways we respond to unexpected tragedy. We seek comfort in our possessions and status. We confuse natural disasters with malicious acts. We blame others for their misfortunes, and sometimes seek to enrich ourselves from the crumbs of their broken lives. We claim to have intimate knowledge of what God wants, and we're happy to share it whether it's well received or not. God and I have been meaning to talk to you about your behavior. Healthy or unhealthy, kind or unkind, these are the stories that we tell ourselves when bad things happen to good people. It's important to remember that these aren't real people, like Adam and Eve, because we must always reconnect to the bigger story behind and beneath the book of Job. Where is God when the poop hits the fan? Job's questions for God are good questions. And because Job, the whole book, is one big metaphor in motion, it's clear that Job's questions for God are the same ones we have. These are the same questions we all ask when we're confronted with the perceived injustice of pain, suffering, and death. Why me? Why now? What did I do? How do I fix it? What do you mean I can't fix it? The God of the Hebrew Bible, especially as presented in Torah books like Leviticus and Deuteronomy, is a God of order and equity, hence all those rules. The opening story of Genesis is a catalog of how power can bring order out of chaos. And although no one uses the word karma in the Jewish scriptures that I know of, the idea is pretty omnipresent in all human societies. Bad behavior leads to a bad, sad, miserable, poverty-stricken life. Good behavior leads to a good, happy, well-fed, prosperous life. Does this sound familiar? I mean, of course it does. It's hardwired into us. Recall the AIDS epidemic, described by bigots as punishment for gay men. And of course, Hurricane Katrina, because again, the homosexuals? I mean, if I actually believed in that kind of karma myself, I would be wondering what sins I personally committed to deserve the last 5 years of our politics. We humans, we just want things to make sense. Job's questions are good questions. And it's true that Job is just a paper cut-out character, the righteous man, trademark 600 BCE-ish God. But Job is also one of the most relatable characters in the Bible, because there is not one of us who will go through life without experiencing disorder and iniquity. For some of us, sometimes it becomes impossible to reconcile the all-knowing, always just God we may have been told to worship with the endless misery and tragedy we see and feel in our lives and the lives of others around us. Theodicy, big fancy word, is the branch of theology, which just means God talk, that defends God's attributes against objections resulting from physical and moral evil. To put it another way, theodicy is the branch of theology that tries to answer Job's real question, the one below his protestations and accusations, the one we've already said, why? Why do bad things happen to good people? And this reply is why I've come to love the book of Job. God never answers. God launches into an epic and epically sarcastic poem about the beauties of creation, from constellations to chemistry. The inner lives of the stars are no more a secret to God than the inner lives of the goats that leap on the crags or the monsters that swim silently in the deep. God never answers Job's questions about justice and fairness and why me. Instead, God speaks to Job and says, I am God, and you are not. And that's patronizing and very frustrating, except, my friends, God is God. Mystery is mystery. Love is love. Infinity is infinity. And we really aren't. We are human. We seek out God, mystery, love, infinity. But we're bounded by our own lives, by our mortality, by our frailty, by the soft animal of our body, loving what it loves. What God says to Job is pitiless and stark. There is no answer given, but there is comfort. Are you sad from these deaths? God seems to say. Fine then, be sad, but look too at this, at me, at the great breathing body that is all of the universe. Death is here within me, just as life is. It is a part of the whole, and no, you'll never quite be able to understand that, but take comfort anyway. Look at the singing stars. Hear the proud roar of the waves. See the hares and the oxen and the bugs, the great seething foundations of the earth and sky, the infinite small lives within its care. Look at them and be comforted and know that you are a part of all of this. Theologian Thomas Edward Frank wrote of this passage of Job, "The utter indifference of nature to the concerns of human beings is the closest we come to grasping God's response here. Nature writers and poets marvel continually at the world's opacity to human passions. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine," writes poet Mary Oliver, one of our very favorites. "Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile," she writes, "the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again." Is there comfort in this ordered indifference? The theologian asks. The poets think there is. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, Oliver continues, and this indeed we count on. The Deuteronomic view of God as justice giver is unsatisfying because it reduces God to cosmic bean counter, petty referee for every dispute of our squabbling species. It also reinforces some really toxic religious ideas that tell us those who suffer everything from hangnails to crippling disease deserve what they get. And of course, those who thrive must be the godliest, considering how prosperous they are. Job gives us a way out of this dull, ugly, hurtful prosperity gospel. Job says no. Sometimes things just suck. Sometimes it's not anyone's fault. Sometimes life is dust and ash in the mouth, and that's it. And meanwhile, the world goes on. Life goes on. Meanwhile, the wild geese are heading home again, calling to one another, or maybe to us. What God teaches Job and Job teaches us is that although we are bounded by our bodies and mortality, we too can take comfort in the clear blue sky, the rounded pebbles of the rain, the trees and rivers and seas and stars. It's not an easy answer. It's not comfortable or simple or pragmatic. It's what we have, though. It's what Job had. As we've wrestled this month with hope, its many forms and sources, its scarcity in times of great struggle, it seems we've heard again and again from the wise men and women of ancient and modern times that we must learn to live in the present. Only by being fully in the moment can we mourn our losses and pain and begin to heal. Only by being fully present in our own lives can we receive the reminders of beauty and solace which breathe all around us in the natural world. O behemoth, O Leviathan, as well as in the relationships we've built with true friends and family, old and new. Job asked divinity, "Why has this happened?" And holiness replied with mystery and love and infinity and awe. This is what you have. Take it, all of it, and live your one wild and precious life. Amen.
No one can feel those on. We all need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. You just might have a problem that you don't understand. We all need somebody to lean on.
If there is a load you have to bear that you can carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me.
Call me. I'm right up the road. Just call me, baby. I'm right up the road. I'm a friend. Call me. Call me. I'm right up the road. You gotta call me. I'm a friend. Call me. I'll carry your load. Call me. I'll carry your load.
We give to remind ourselves how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space, in person, online, and in spirit. We give with the faith that together we have enough. At this time, I invite you to give to Community Unitarian Universalist Church to continue our work together, including these online services. You can easily give online. Just go to communityuuchurch.org and click on the blue Donate Now button. Or you can get the address off our website and mail a check. Your gifts are most gratefully received at this time of need. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. As the chalice flame is extinguished, let us carry its glow within. Let us kindle new sparks within our walls and beyond. Please join me now in saying, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
In the spirit of Job's lesson, I close with this timeless Irish blessing. There are only two things to worry about. Either you're well or you're sick. If you're well, you have nothing to worry about. If you're sick, there are only two things to worry about. Either you'll get well or you'll die. If you get well, you have nothing to worry about. If you die, there are only two things to be worrying about. Either you'll go upstairs or you'll go downstairs. If you go upstairs, as we Universalists generally think we all will, there's nothing to worry about. And if you go downstairs, well, we were very wrong, but you're going to be so busy shaking hands with all your friends, you won't have time to worry. Enjoy the time that you are in. Hold the future tenderly and with care. Hold the past with accountability and clear eyes, but live here and now with the present beauties of the world around you, including friends. Winnie the Pooh creator A.A. Milne once said, "How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard." How lucky we are as we come to the end of our service. Amen. Go in peace and blessed be.